Hey everyone, Erica Zeal here with you, creator behind Nocta Fitness and the Core Rehab program. And this is my video two of this long video series that I am going to be doing, talking about some of my life's experiences. And today I want to go back to when I was younger. And these are things that I really haven't talked about because I get so in teaching mode and training mode that, sometimes it's hard when we take a step back and talk about ourselves and our life. But I look back at so many things that I experienced, again, when I was younger as a child, for instance, and how it really kind of paved this path for me. And if I hadn't had those experiences, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today, which is, helping to change lives for people, for women, for men, for kids. And now that I have three little ones of my own, I am aware of a lot of the things that I experienced as a child. So I'll talk about that for a bit. So when I was younger, it started in kindergarten, and some of this, obviously I remember a good bulk of it, especially as I got older, but some of it, is retold from my mom. And it started when I was in about kindergarten, and so many different nights I would just be in so much pain. My knees would hurt, I would sleep like all curled up in a ball, and I know that was so hard for my parents to see that, and they felt hopeless, and my mom took me to different doctors to see what was going on. And it took all the way up until I was at end of my junior year. We ended up finally at the Mayo Clinic, and it was one of those where it wasn't like debilitating pain. Like, I could still walk, I could still move and things like that, but at night, it kind of would get the best of me, and it wasn't fun. And they would just say, well, initially it was growing pains, and then as I got a little older and, I was middle school and high school and trying to do sports, they would say, oh, well, it's tendonitis. So I'd wear that, silly little strap around my, the bottom of my knee, which never did anything. And as much as I wanted to be an athlete, I had the desire to be an athlete, and I pushed through a lot to be an athlete, I was kind of forced to stop, typically about halfway through a lot of seasons. I did enjoy running. Long when I was in middle school and high school, I loved running. It's really windy out here. We have to move inside. But I enjoyed running a lot, and as I've gotten older, I'm realizing running is not the best thing for my body. And but anyway, I would be out a lot of seasons midway through, and it sucked. It really just sucked because I wanted to play these sports. And I think at one point I finally was just like, I tried swimming and doing different things that were less aggressive on my knees, but I was like, why were my knees hurting so bad? Like, there was no explanation. So again, it was, I think, toward the end of my junior year of high school, and we finally ended up at the Mayo Clinic up in Rochester, Minnesota. Growing up here in Iowa, it's not too far away. And I remember going to a PT there, and he was like, well, you need to do more strengthening for your knees. And I was like, okay, well, I had already been in the gym some, school, you'd lift some here and there. And that really is what started me down this path. And sometimes my mom will say to me, I don't know where you got your fitness gene, and and things like that. And I was like, well, a lot of it, when I stopped to think about it, it started with the knee pain that I had. It was constant, and it was like at one point then when we kind of started to dive in at least a little bit deeper to understand what was going on and then what you could do about it. And so that got me into going in and lifting more at the gym, and that was kind of my initial start between my junior and senior year of high school. And I'd be in there with the guys lifting. I was like the only girl in there, and sometimes you're a little awkward, but I just did it, and I was focused, and I was like, I'm bound and determined to get my legs stronger and my knees stronger. And of course, at that time, I look back and I'm like, we knew like a little bit of this, of what was going on with my own body, but it was a step in the right direction is what it was. And so then, of course, I went on to college and, studied exercise science, health and human performance. And it was amazing, but it took me my entire college career of, well, 3.5 years. I went through college fairly quickly, to rehab my knees myself, basically. And that was a huge focus for me. And I learned as much as I could while I was in college. And it was a great step in the right direction. It really was. It was amazing. I'm very grateful for my college education that I got. But again, when I look back at these things and I think of that annoying pain, and I notice it again with my youngest now, sometimes she gets it. And from what I have learned now, I work with my kids, and I'm recognizing some of these things that my children starting to go through a little bit because she genetically has my one leg, you know, and things like that. And so sometimes, you know, my application for you is with this, and I've got more I'm going to share about this, but is sometimes there's just shit that happens, you know, and it's not always fun, and sometimes it's painful, and sometimes it's emotionally challenging and things like that. But for me, for this example was, you know, physically it was just a pain. It was frustrating. And you know, I look back and I'm like, I would really like if I could be, you know, take my skills that I have now and apply them then, right? Don't we all say that? I say that so many times. I'm like, if I only knew this back whenever, you know, it would have drastically changed. But then again, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. So again, sometimes when we learn and experience these things for ourselves, it not only changes who we are, but it changes our purpose and our path. And whether it doesn't mean we have to change and do our career revolving around that like I am, and this is just part of my purpose and what I do, and I'm able to make a change by actually working with people and create programming, but just applying it to our life, you know, helping our kids with it, whatever it may be. Again, this is just an example of me that was such a part of my life that really changed what I do. And again, it got me into this path, and then there's just been different things along the way that have continued to morph. And I also try to follow my tuition, and you know, when I'm thinking of something or trying to figure something out and try to dive a little bit deeper on whatever the mystery might be, whether it's my own body or with a client, and I'm like, okay, but this, you know, things like that. So I think it's just really amazing, and it can really change our quality of life when we start looking at things that happen to us as not a burden. And in the moment they might be frustrating, and that's fine. I think it's okay. We have to work through those things. If we feel like crying, we need to cry. If, you know, we're in pain, we're in pain. But also then thinking about, well, what can we do about that? Actually experiencing, you know, the emotions, and then, okay, get through that. Okay, what can we do about it? So the one thing for me, again, growing up with the knee pain, the hip pain, the leg pain that I did experience is it started me off on this path that I've been doing for the last 15 years now, since I was in college. But it was just the start, because since then it's like, okay, it's really forced me into this spot of looking at people's hips. And again, I'm going to talk a little about the movement side of it, because that's obviously a lot of what I teach. And I firmly believe there's so much that we can do, not just through fitness. I've been saying this lately. I'm like, fitness is the vessel through which I teach what I teach, but I don't just teach fitness. Fitness for fitness sake, to just move and burn calories, doesn't serve as good of purpose as if we're moving with purpose. We're moving to create better alignment for our body, to create better function. And that is, at the end of the day, where I really stand with a lot of this. And I look back, and years ago when my son was born, he's 8 now, and I really wanted to specialize, and at that point I really wanted to work with young, you know, female athletes, because I think of myself back when I was in high school, and I was like, that's who, at that point I was like, I really wanted to work with them. But at the same time, I was in the thick of you know, being pregnant and having babies myself, and I'd already been working with so many pregnant women that's when I was like, okay, we're going to work with the prenatal population. That's what I'm going to specialize in. And I loved it. I loved it at the time, and I really loved it. And now it's interesting, you know, as my kids are getting a little bit older, and now they're getting into sports and they're growing, and I'm now starting to have this kind of full circle moment of, you know, it's neat to be able to see that what we've learned, we can kind of go back and now, you know, work with our own kids and things like that. And I'm starting to see the different skills that I've learned along the way, how I can apply it to my children, not only just to, you know, my profession. But there's so much that we can be doing. And I think at the end of the day, you know, working on just being grateful for the experiences that we have, I guess, is really my biggest takeaway that I want for all of this. Because I don't talk a lot about my personal life and things, because a lot of it, I like to keep it private, but I do want to share some of these things, because it also, I think, helps explain, you know, why I do what I do and the purpose behind it, and how it's not just, yes, I do a lot through research and continually learning and working with you know, with new clients all the time, and I just love to learn and evolve, but at the same time, I'm very grateful for what I had growing up, because if I hadn't had that, I don't know what I would be doing actually. So it's very interesting. But I put the link above if you haven't already signed up. I share some more tips. I start with sharing some postural tips and things like that, and I have more emails that go out with some exercises that you can do because, and I'll talk about this more in another video, but our physical body really can be so intertwined with our emotions, and that is something that we do not talk about enough, especially in the fitness industry. We don't address that so much, nor do we address diastasis recti, pelvic floor issues, all those types of things. But that's for another topic, another day here. So I'm going to kind of keep chipping away. Another topic I'm going to talk about later this week. I'm hoping to do 2 more videos this week. I want to talk about my experience with exhaustion. I talk about that on here with, you know, thyroid and adrenals and the exhaustion of motherhood and what that can do to our bodies, and how as women and moms in particular, we can become so depleted, and we don't always talk about that, and a lot of people don't address that. I find a lot of doctors don't even address that. So another topic for another day, but if you have any questions for me, please leave them below. If you have any other questions, even not related to today's video, that you'd love for me to expand upon, I'm happy to do so. So just ask. Otherwise, you can check out more at ericazeal.com.